Darius Langston remained seated in 2A, calm and unmoving, while the flight attendant's panicked voice crackled over the intercom. "Captain Pierce, we need you up front now." Every one of the 147 passengers looked up from their phones. Something was terribly wrong in first class. Very wrong. He had not stirred when Lila demanded to see his real ticket. He had not reacted when she openly called him a fraud. He had not flinched when other passengers began filming what looked like his forced removal. He simply sat there, checking his Patek Philippe watch, waiting with quiet certainty. "Sir, you are holding up this entire flight," Lila said, her voice now trembling. "The captain is coming." Darius offered a small smile, the kind that sent a chill down her spine. "I know." His phone buzzed with a text from his legal team. "Everything is ready, sir. Just give us the word." The stories we tell ourselves about strangers, the real-life stories that shatter every assumption. These powerful stories remind us that Black stories often hide the most shocking truths. Life stories that change everything. Have you ever misjudged someone so completely that it destroyed your entire world? Captain Ronan Pierce arrived like a storm cloud, his gold stripes gleaming under the cabin lights. Years of flying had taught him one truth. Problem passengers required immediate, decisive action. "Lila, what is happening here?" His voice carried the full weight of authority. "This man," Lila pointed at Darius, "has been sitting in first class. He refuses to show proper ID. He's been aggressive." Captain Pierce studied Darius. Expensive suit, calm posture, hands folded. Nothing suggested a threat. Yet Lila's voice shook, and she had never lied to him before. "Sir, I'm Captain Pierce. I understand there has been some confusion about your seat assignment." Darius lifted his boarding pass without a word. Southwest Airlines Flight 2847, Seat 2A. Pierce examined it closely. Everything looked legitimate. "This appears to be in order," he said slowly. "It's fake," Lila whispered, yet her voice carried through the entire cabin. "Captain, look at him. Really look. Does he belong in first class?" Harper Quinn's live stream had already reached 8,000 viewers. The comments exploded. Did she just say that? This is insane. Southwest is about to get sued. Captain Pierce felt the eyes of every passenger on him. The businessman in 1C tapped his watch impatiently. The couple in 2C whispered behind their hands. A teenager in 4A held up her phone, recording everything. "Ma'am, I need you to explain exactly what you mean by that," Pierce said carefully. "You know what I mean," Lila's voice cracked. "People like him don't usually fly first class. He probably bought that ticket from some sketchy website." "People like me." Darius spoke for the first time since the captain arrived. His voice was quiet, controlled, and dangerous. "Don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about," Lila snapped. "I see hundreds of passengers every day. I know who belongs where." Harper's phone shook in her hands. Her live stream now had 15,000 viewers. Someone had already started the hashtag Southwest discrimination. Local news stations were messaging her frantically. "Sir," Captain Pierce said, "I'm going to need additional identification. Driver's license, credit card, something to verify this ticket." Darius reached into his jacket. Pierce tensed, but Darius simply pulled out a wallet. Expensive European leather. Inside lay a black American Express Centurion card, the kind Pierce had only seen in magazines, the kind that required a $10,000 annual fee just to own. Pierce's confidence wavered. "This is a very exclusive card." "Yes," Darius said simply. "It is." "But that doesn't explain how you got first class," Lila interjected. "Those seats cost $800. You probably used miles or some upgrade trick." "I paid full price," Darius replied. "This morning at the airport." Captain Pierce felt something cold settle deep in his stomach. The specificity was unsettling. Most passengers could not remember exactly when they had booked. Other passengers were complaining now. The tension in the cabin was palpable. "Sir," Pierce said, "I'm going to ask you to deplane voluntarily. We can sort this out at the gate with customer service." "No." The single word sliced through the cabin like a blade. Pierce had heard that tone before from passengers who ended up in handcuffs. "I beg your pardon." "I said no, Captain Pierce. I am not deplaning. I am not moving. I am staying in my assigned seat until this aircraft reaches Phoenix." Lila's face flushed red. "That's it. I'm calling security. You're trespassing." "Before you do that," Darius said softly, "I have a question. Are you familiar with Federal Aviation Regulation 91.11? Pierce paused. That was very specific. It deals with crew authority during flight operations and interstate commerce violations. Sir, are you threatening legal action? I'm asking if you understand the legal framework you are currently operating under. Harper's live stream exploded past 30,000 viewers. The comments blurred with outrage. This is 2024, and we're still doing this. Get this racist crew fired. I'm recording this for the news. Captain Pierce's radio crackled. Captain Pierce, this is ground security. We are boarding for a passenger removal. Copy that, Pierce replied. But something in Darius's expression made him hesitate. Captain, Darius said gently, I think you should know something before those officers arrive. This conversation is being recorded by at least 12 devices. Your crew member has made several statements that could be construed as discriminatory under federal law, and in about 30 seconds, you are going to receive a phone call that will change everything. Pierce felt his mouth go dry. What kind of call? Darius smiled. Not angry, not smug, just knowing. The kind that ends careers, Captain. The kind that makes headlines. The kind that changes companies forever. As if on cue, Pierce's phone buzzed. The caller ID read Southwest Operations Center, urgent. Darius leaned back in his seat. You might want to answer that. Pierce pressed the phone to his ear. Captain Pierce, this is Southwest Operations. We are monitoring social media. Your flight now has 42,000 live viewers. Handle this quietly and quickly. 42,000 people watching his every move. Pierce wiped sweat from his forehead as two airport security officers boarded, Janet Kim and Mike Rodriguez, both carrying restraints. What's the situation? Kim asked, surveying the cabin. Lila pointed at Darius with a shaking finger. This passenger has been disruptive. He's threatening crew members and refusing to move to economy where he belongs. Darius remained perfectly still, hands folded in his lap. The only movement was his eyes, tracking every person, every camera, every witness. Sir, Kim addressed Darius, we need you to come with us voluntarily. I am in my assigned seat with a valid boarding pass, Darius replied. I am not going anywhere. Rodriguez stepped closer, hand moving toward his zip ties. Sir, you are interfering with aircraft operations, a federal offense. Last warning. The gate agent announced final boarding over the intercom. Harper's live stream chat exploded. This is insane. Sue them all. Call every news station. Make this viral. The businessman in 1C finally lost patience. Captain, I paid premium prices to avoid exactly this kind of situation. I have a connecting flight in Phoenix. Other first-class passengers murmured agreement. The woman in 2D held her phone higher. The teenager in 4A live streamed to her TikTok followers. Sir, Kim said, this is your final opportunity to comply voluntarily. Darius looked at his watch, a gesture everyone now read as defiance. Officers, before you proceed, I have one question. We are not here for questions, Rodriguez snapped. Are you familiar with the legal ramifications of unlawful detention? Kim hesitated. That was precise lawyer language. You're trespassing, Pierce interjected. Southwest Airlines has the absolute right to remove any passenger for any reason. Actually, Darius said, reaching slowly for his briefcase. Let me clarify something about those rights. Rodriguez tensed. No sudden movements. I am retrieving documentation that you requested, Darius said calmly. Pierce's radio crackled again. Captain Pierce, operations. CNN is calling our media line. Fox News is requesting comment. We need immediate resolution. National news coverage. Pierce felt his career prospects crumbling in real time. But Lila had never been wrong about problem passengers before, never. What documentation? Kim asked suspiciously. The kind that explains why forcibly removing me would end all of your careers, Darius replied. Lila's voice rose to near hysteria. He's been threatening us the entire time. He won't show proper ID. Look at him. Does he look like he belongs in first class? Ma'am, Kim said carefully. What specific threats did he make? He said there would be consequences. He keeps timing everything on his watch. He's planning something. Harper's viewer count hit 55,000. Major news outlets were sliding into her DMs. Her phone buzzed constantly with interview requests. Captain Pierce made his decision. Officers, remove him. 147 passengers cannot be held hostage by one individual. Rodriguez stepped forward, restraints ready. Sir, stand up slowly and place your hands behind your back. Darius did not move. Instead, he asked, Captain Pierce, how long have you been flying for Southwest? Years, Pierce answered automatically, then caught himself. That's irrelevant, Officer Rodriguez. How long have you worked airport security? Several years. Why does that matter? Because in 30 seconds, you will both need to explain to your supervisors why you detained the wrong person. Pierce's radio erupted. Captain Pierce, emergency. We have a developing situation. Stand by for executive-level instructions. Do not proceed with passenger removal until further notice. Executive level. That meant corporate headquarters. That meant people Pierce had never met but who controlled his entire career. Sir, Rodriguez said, you are under arrest. Darius finally stood. The entire cabin held its breath. Every phone focused on him. Officers, he said quietly, 20 years from now, you will train new personnel about this moment, about the importance of asking the right questions before taking action. He reached into his briefcase with deliberate slowness. This time, no one stopped him. Darius withdrew a leather document folder, expensive and embossed with a logo most people would not recognize. He opened it carefully. Before you arrest me, perhaps you should see my identification. Kim extended her hand reluctantly. Darius handed her a business card. Kim read it. Her face went chalk white. She showed Rodriguez, whose eyes widened in shock. What does it say? Pierce demanded, his voice cracking. Kim's whisper was barely audible. Darius Langston, chairman of the board, Southwest Airlines. Chairman, not just a board member, chairman of the board. High enough to destroy careers, but not so high that it seemed impossible. Lila's face crumpled. That can't be real. Board members don't fly commercial. Pierce's radio crackled with a different voice. Older, more authoritative. Captain Pierce, this is Senior Vice President Callahan. We are aware of the situation on Flight 2847. Take no further action against the passenger in Seat 2A. Corporate is handling this directly. Senior Vice President. Pierce had never spoken to anyone that high in the company hierarchy. Darius sat back down, smoothing his suit jacket. Captain Pierce, I believe you had some concerns about my documentation. Pierce felt years of flying evaporating before his eyes. Sir, the crew had no way of knowing. That is precisely the point, Darius said softly. You assumed. Your crew assumed. And now, 60,000 people have watched those assumptions play out in real time. Harper's live stream had indeed reached 60,000 viewers, the comments blurred with shock and vindication. Board member, they're so fired. Justice is served. This is the best thing I've ever seen. Screenshot everything. Rodriguez backed away slowly, his restraints forgotten. Kim stared at the business card like it contained nuclear codes. Lila began hyperventilating. The weight of her words, recorded, live-streamed, witnessed by thousands, crashed down on her. But nobody was thinking about departure anymore. The entire cabin was focused on the quiet man in Seat 2A, who had just revealed himself to be one of the most powerful people in the company. Darius checked his watch one final time. I believe we have some important matters to discuss. Silence crashed over the cabin like a physical force. Darius Langston, chairman of the board, sat in Seat 2A while 60,000 people watched the crew's world collapse in real time. Pierce stared at the business card in Kim's trembling hands. Board member. Chairman. The words still did not compute. Chairman did not fly commercial. They had private jets, executive assistants, security details. Sir, Pierce whispered, if you're on the board, why didn't you identify yourself immediately? Darius looked up, and for the first time, something flickered in his eyes. Not anger, something deeper. Captain, why should I have to prove who I am to sit in a seat I paid for? The question hit like a sledgehammer. Pierce realized he would never have asked that of a white passenger. We follow protocol. Whose protocol says black men in expensive suits are suspicious? The word hung in the air. Black. He had said it. The thing everyone was thinking, but no one would voice. Lila's sobbing intensified. She understood now. This was not just a customer service failure. This was a civil rights incident. Recorded, live-streamed, permanent. Harper's chat exploded. He said it, calling out the racism. This is history. 90,000 viewers. Darius reached for his tablet. Officer Rodriguez, in your years of security work, how many white passengers have you restrained for sitting quietly in first class? Sir, that's not... How many black passengers? Rodriguez could not answer. The mathematics of bias were undeniable. Darius tapped his tablet. A new screen appeared. Not an organizational chart, but a video call. Live. The Southwest Airlines boardroom appeared with 6 executives staring directly into the camera. Darius, a woman's voice said from the tablet, "We're watching the live stream. Are you all right?" The crew's faces went ashen. This was not just any board member. This was someone the other executives called by his first name. Someone they were worried about. "I'm fine, Evelyn," Darius replied, "though I think Captain Pierce and his crew have some explaining to do." Pierce realized with horror that the entire Southwest Airlines executive team was watching this unfold live in real time. "Captain Pierce," the woman on the screen said, "this is Evelyn Hayes, Senior Vice President of Operations. Would you care to explain why our chairman is being threatened with arrest on his own airline?" "Chairman, not board member. Chairman of the board." Pierce felt his knees buckle. Lila collapsed into a passenger seat, hyperventilating. Rodriguez actually dropped his restraints. The plastic clattered on the cabin floor. "Ma'am," Pierce stammered, "we had no identification." The crew reported what exactly? Another voice from the tablet, older, male, authoritative. "This is CEO Harlan Reeves. I want a precise explanation of why my chairman was treated like a criminal." Harper's viewer count hit 100,000. Her phone was burning hot. News alerts popped up on social media faster than she could read them. Darius turned the tablet toward Lila. "Ms. Vargas, would you like to explain to CEO Reeves what you told me about people like me?" Lila could not speak, could not breathe. The weight of having the entire executive team watch her discrimination in real time was crushing her. "Sir," Kim found her voice, "we were responding to crew reports of a disruptive passenger." "Officer Kim," the CEO's voice cut through the cabin, "we have footage from multiple angles. Mr. Langston was sitting quietly reading documents. What exactly was disruptive about his behavior?" "The flight attendant assumed," Darius interrupted, and now his voice carried an edge. "She assumed I didn't belong. She assumed my ticket was fake. She assumed I was aggressive. Every assumption based on one thing." He paused, letting the weight of that truth settle. "My appearance." The cabin was dead silent, except for Lila's ragged breathing. Darius tapped the tablet again. Internal Southwest communications appeared in real time. Legal department mobilizing. PR crisis team activated. Stock price monitoring initiated. Discrimination. Lawsuit potential. "Ladies and gentlemen," Darius addressed the cabin, "what you are witnessing is how quickly assumptions become lawsuits, how bias becomes headlines, how prejudice becomes stock price drops." Pierce's radio crackled. "Captain Pierce, this is Tower Control. We have 17 news vans at Phoenix Sky Harbor. The FAA is requesting incident reports. Complete your departure immediately." 17 news vans. This was no longer an airline incident. It was a national story. CEO Reeves' voice came from the tablet. "You will complete this flight. Mr. Langston will remain in his seat, the seat he paid for. Upon arrival, you will report directly to corporate headquarters." "Yes, sir." "Ms. Vargas, you will say nothing further to passengers or crew. HR will meet you at the gate." Lila nodded mutely, tears streaming down her face. "Officers," the CEO continued, "your departments will receive formal complaints. I suggest you contact your supervisors immediately." Darius closed the tablet, cutting the connection. The executives were gone, but their presence lingered like smoke. "Now," Darius said, standing slowly, "let me show you something else." He opened his briefcase wider. Inside were legal documents marked Class Action Lawsuit Template, Airline Discrimination, financial reports showing revenue impact of discrimination incidents, and training materials titled Unconscious Bias in Customer Service. "I didn't board this flight by accident," Darius said quietly. "Southwest Airlines has received 47 discrimination complaints this quarter. 47. This flight was a test." The words hit like electricity. This was planned. Orchestrated. A setup. You planned this?" Pierce asked, his voice barely audible. "I planned to fly first class on my own airline. Your crew planned the discrimination." Harper's live stream reached 110,000 viewers. Comments flooded faster than the platform could process. It was a test. Chairman testing his own airline. This is genius. They fell for it completely. Darius pulled out his phone. On the screen was a draft press release titled Southwest Airlines Announces Comprehensive Anti-Discrimination Initiative Following Chairman's Personal Experience with Bias. This press release will go out in 30 minutes, he said. It announces mandatory bias training for all employees, third-party audits of customer service interactions, and a $10 million fund for discrimination prevention programs. He looked directly at Lila. Ms. Vargas, your assumptions just cost this company $10 million. Lila's sobbing turned to hyperventilation. A passenger offered her an oxygen mask. But Darius continued. They also just bought us the opportunity to become the first airline in America with a zero-tolerance discrimination policy backed by real consequences. Sir, what happens to us? Pierce asked. Darius studied him for a long moment. That depends, Captain, on whether you learn from this or repeat it. He sat back down, opened his laptop, and began typing. I am documenting everything that happened here today. Every word, every assumption, every moment of bias. It will become required training material for every Southwest employee. The plane began to move. Ladies and gentlemen, Darius announced to the cabin, welcome to the flight that changes everything. As Phoenix approached, Darius made one final call. Legal, it's Darius. Execute the discrimination protocol, full implementation, and get me a meeting with the NAACP, ACLU, and Department of Transportation. We are going to fix this industry. The test was over. The real work was about to begin. The cabin air felt electric as Flight 2847 cruised toward Phoenix. Darius Langston closed his laptop with a decisive snap, the sound cutting through the nervous whispers of 147 passengers. Ms. Vargas, his voice carried absolute authority. Sit down. We are going to have a conversation. Lila stumbled to seat 2B, her hands shaking uncontrollably. Every phone in first class focused on her face, pale, streaked with tears, destroyed. Look at me, Darius commanded. Lila forced herself to meet his eyes. What she saw there was not anger. It was something worse, disappointment so profound it felt like a physical blow. 8 years with this company, Darius said quietly. 15 discrimination training sessions, dozens of diversity workshops, and you looked at a black man in a $3,000 suit and decided he was a criminal. Sir, I'm not finished. The words cut like ice. Do you know what Southwest Airlines stock price was when we took off? Lila shook her head. It was $34.67 per share. Do you know what it will be when we land? Darius opened his phone, showing a real-time stock ticker. Southwest Airlines, $32.15, down 7.3%. Your assumptions just cost our shareholders $847 million in market value. Harper's live stream exploded with comments, stock price crashing live. She cost them almost $1 billion. This is insane. Captain Pierce, Darius called out. Join us. Pierce emerged from the cockpit, his pilot's uniform wrinkled, his face gray. Captain, how many black passengers have you personally removed from first class? Pierce's mouth went dry. Sir, I don't keep statistics on... I do. Darius pulled up a document on his tablet. Southwest Internal Audit, Flight Operations Division. In the past 2 years, Captain Ronan Pierce has authorized the removal of 17 passengers from premium cabins. 15 were people of color. 2 were white. The numbers hung in the air like an indictment. Pierce felt his legs go weak. Coincidence, Captain? I never realized. You never realized because you never questioned. Ms. Vargas tells you a black passenger is disruptive and you don't ask for specifics. She tells you someone doesn't belong and you don't ask why. You just act. Darius stood up, commanding the attention of the entire cabin. His voice carried to the back rows where passengers craned their necks to see. Ladies and gentlemen, what you are witnessing is institutional racism in action, not cross-burning, hood-wearing racism, the polite kind, the kind that hides behind policy and protocol. Lila's sobbing intensified. She understood now this was not just about her job. This was about everything she had been taught, everything she had accepted as normal. Darius's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and smiled grimly. Ms. Vargas, do you know who that was? Lila shook her head. Gloria Allred's law office. They want to discuss a class action lawsuit representing every black passenger who has been discriminated against by Southwest Airlines in the past 5 years. The color drained from Lila's face. How many passengers is that based on our internal complaints? Approximately 2,300 incidents. Average settlement value in discrimination cases, $400,000 per plaintiff. Harper did quick math on her live stream. That was almost $1 billion in potential lawsuits. Darius nodded. Correct. Ms. Vargas, your 30 minutes of bias just exposed Southwest Airlines to the largest discrimination lawsuit in aviation history. Sir, what can we do? Pierce asked. Darius's laugh was bitter. Captain, there is no we. You made your choice when you decided I was guilty before asking what I had done wrong. Please, sir. I have a family, a mortgage. I'll lose everything. So did the 2,300 black passengers you and your colleagues have humiliated over the past 5 years. Did you consider their families when you had them removed from flights? Pierce could not answer. Darius pulled up another document. Southwest Airlines Crisis Management Protocol, Stock Price Protection. He read aloud. When facing potential discrimination lawsuits exceeding $100 million, immediately terminate all involved personnel to demonstrate corporate commitment to equality. Lila's voice cracked. You're firing us? I am not firing anyone, Darius said coldly. The board of directors will vote on your termination at an emergency meeting in 90 minutes. I will be recommending immediate dismissal with cause, which means no severance, no benefits, no references. The words hit like physical blows. Lila doubled over, hyperventilating. Pierce grabbed a seat back for support. But, Darius continued, there is one possibility for mitigation. Both crew members looked up desperately. Full public confession, live television interview, complete acknowledgement of bias and discrimination, commitment to become advocates for civil rights training in the airline industry. You want us to humiliate ourselves on national TV? Pierce asked. You humiliated me in front of 150,000 people, Darius replied. Turnabout is fair play. Harper's viewer count had reached 150,000. Major news outlets were now broadcasting her stream directly. Hashtag Southwest Discrimination was trending globally. Darius's tablet chimed with an incoming video call. He accepted it, angling the screen so the cabin could see. Darius, it's Robert Jordan. The CEO of Southwest Airlines appeared on screen, his face grim. We've been monitoring the situation. Legal department is mobilizing. PR crisis team is activated. The FAA is demanding immediate compliance reviews. Robert, meet the crew that just cost us $1 billion in market cap. Jordan's eyes focused on Lila and Pierce. You two are suspended immediately. Security will escort you off the aircraft upon landing. HR will conduct full investigations. Bob, Darius said, I want them to have one opportunity to salvage their careers. What kind of opportunity? Public accountability, full media confession, commitment to anti-discrimination advocacy. Jordan considered this. If they refuse, termination with cause, blacklisted from the aviation industry, personal liability for any discrimination lawsuits that name them specifically. Personal liability? Pierce's voice was barely a whisper. Captain, when you violate someone's civil rights while acting outside company policy, you become personally responsible for damages. Ms. Vargas, the same applies to you. Lila was hyperventilating again. The weight of personal financial ruin was crushing her. How much personal liability? Pierce asked. Darius consulted his tablet. Based on similar cases, approximately $2,300,000 each, plus legal fees, plus punitive damages. If a jury finds willful discrimination, both crew members realized they were facing complete financial destruction. Sir, Lila gasped, what do you want us to do? Darius leaned back in his seat, studying them both. I want you to choose, easy or hard. Take responsibility publicly and help us fix this problem, or fight us in court and lose everything. The plane began its descent into Phoenix. Through the windows, passengers could see news helicopters following their approach. 30 minutes to landing, Pierce announced automatically. 30 minutes to decide your futures, Darius corrected. Choose wisely. The most expensive 30 minutes of Southwest Airlines history were about to end. Flight 2847 touched down with a thud that seemed to echo through Lila's soul. Through the small window, she could see her future waiting. News vans, federal investigators, and the end of everything she had built. Final decision time, Darius said, not looking up from his tablet. CNN is requesting live interviews. So is 60 Minutes. The whole world wants to hear your story. Lila's voice cracked. What if I can't do it? What if I break down on camera? For the first time since this nightmare began, Darius's expression softened slightly. Ms. Vargas, do you have children? A daughter. She's 7. What do you want her to learn from this moment? Lila wiped her eyes. That people can change. That mistakes don't have to define you forever. Then that's what you tell the cameras. Pierce shut down the aircraft's engines with hands that shook like autumn leaves. Sir, I need you to know something. This wasn't the first time. I've done this before. Made assumptions about passengers based on how they looked. I never realized. Darius studied the broken captain. How many times, Ronan? The use of his first name somehow made it worse. I don't know. Dozens, maybe? I told myself I was following procedure. But you were following bias disguised as procedure. Pierce nodded miserably. My own son is mixed race. Jesus Christ. What if someone treated him the way I treated you? The confession hit like lightning. Pierce's own child was exactly the kind of person he had been discriminating against. Then you have a very personal reason to make this right, Darius said quietly. The aircraft door opened and chaos poured in. Federal investigators, Southwest executives, and a small army of lawyers filled the jet bridge. Inspector Ramirez approached with grim efficiency. Mr. Langston, we need immediate statements from all parties. This investigation is now a federal civil rights case. Inspector, before we begin, Darius said, I want to show you something. He pulled up his tablet, displaying a document titled The Pierce-Vargas Protocol, a case study in institutional bias. I've been developing this training program for months. Today's incident will become mandatory education for every airline employee in America. Ramirez examined the screen. You've been planning this. I've been preparing for this. There's a difference. Lila found her voice. Sir, can I ask you something personal? Darius nodded. How many times has this happened to you? Really? Darius was quiet for a long moment. Ms. Vargas, I'm a black man who travels 200,000 miles a year on commercial airlines. Take a guess. Too many times. Far too many. But today was different. Today, I had the power to do something about it. Harper looked up from her phone, which now showed 180,000 live viewers. Mr. Langston, people are asking, will this really change anything, or will it just blow over like everything else? Darius smiled grimly. Harper, in the next hour, Southwest Airlines will announce the most comprehensive anti-discrimination program in aviation history. $5 million investment, mandatory body cameras, third-party auditing, zero tolerance with immediate termination. He turned to Lila and Pierce. And our first 2 case studies will be sitting right here. Case studies? Pierce asked. You two will spend the next year traveling to every Southwest hub, telling your story, showing employees exactly how bias works, how assumptions become actions, how good people can do terrible things without realizing it. Lila's tears had stopped. Something like hope flickered in her eyes. You're giving us a chance to fix this? I'm giving you a chance to earn redemption, but it won't be easy. You'll relive this humiliation hundreds of times. You'll face angry audiences. Some people will never forgive you, but your daughter will see you trying to make it right, Pierce said quietly. Darius stood as passengers began deplaning. Ladies and gentlemen, you have witnessed something unprecedented today, a live case study in how discrimination happens and how it can be stopped. He paused at the cabin door. In 12 months, Southwest Airlines will be the safest airline in America for every passenger, regardless of race, religion, or background. Not because we are perfect, but because we are finally honest about our imperfections. Outside, protesters chanted while news cameras rolled. This was no longer just a Southwest story. It was a national conversation about bias, power, and the possibility of change. Lila took a deep breath and walked toward the cameras. Her career was over, but maybe her real work was just beginning. Pierce followed, thinking about his mixed-race son and the world he wanted to leave him. Darius Langston stepped into the Phoenix heat, carrying the weight of systemic change on his shoulders. The flight was over. The transformation had just begun. A few months later, the Pierce-Vargas protocol would be implemented by every major airline in America. Sometimes justice arrives 30,000 feet in the air. Darius Langston sat in his home office late at night, scrolling through messages that still arrived daily months after flight. 2847. Tonight's email made him pause. Mr. Langston, my name is Sarah Thompson. I'm white, 34, from Ohio. Last week, I was on a United flight when I saw them treating a Latino family exactly like Southwest treated you. But this time was different. I remembered your story. I started recording. I spoke up. The family kept their seats. Thank you for showing me how to be brave. Darius smiled, forwarding the email to Harper Quinn, who now ran Southwest's Dignity Documentation Project. These stories arrived every day. Passengers finding courage, employees speaking up, systemic change spreading like wildfire. His phone buzzed. A text from Lila Vargas, now traveling to her 200th airport presentation. Detroit training tomorrow. 500 new hires. Still nervous every time, but their faces when they get it. Worth everything. Another message from Ronan Pierce. My son asked to come to my next presentation. He wants to help. Said he's proud his dad learned to be better. Darius leaned back in his chair. The real victory was not the $2.3 billion in prevented lawsuits or the 89% drop in discrimination complaints. It was Sarah Thompson finding her voice. It was Pierce's son feeling proud instead of ashamed. The intercom buzzed. Mr. Langston, your assistant's voice. 60 Minutes is on line 1. They want to do a follow-up story. Tell them I'm not available, Darius replied, but connect them with Harper Quinn. Her story is the one that matters now. He walked to his window, looking out at the Phoenix skyline. Somewhere out there, flights were taking off every minute. Passengers were being treated with dignity because strangers had witnessed injustice and decided to act. His computer chimed with a new video upload, Harper's latest live stream. Not from an airplane this time, but from a coffee shop in Seattle, where she documented a manager discriminating against a transgender customer. The video already had 100,000 views and was climbing. Darius opened his laptop and began typing. Months ago, I sat in seat 2A and changed my life, but I didn't change the world. You did. Every time you share Harper's original video, discrimination gets a little harder to hide. Every time you speak up when you see bias, justice gets a little stronger. Every time you choose courage over comfort, someone like Sarah Thompson finds her voice. These real-life stories matter because they become your stories. Black stories that inspire white allies. Touching stories that move people to action. Life stories that prove ordinary people can create extraordinary change. Today, right now, someone is being discriminated against. Someone is staying quiet. Someone is looking the other way. Don't be that someone. Record the truth. Share the evidence. Speak for the silenced. Because change doesn't happen in boardrooms. It happens when you decide that enough is enough. What injustice will you document today? Share your stories below. Tag 3 people who need to see this. Subscribe if you believe dignity isn't negotiable. The next flight, 2847, is waiting for its Harper Quinn. Will that be you? Darius hit publish and watched the views climb. 1,000, 5,000, 15,000. Somewhere, another ordinary person was about to find extraordinary courage. The revolution would be live-streamed.